This is The Bottom Line, a show designed to help Australian businesses succeed. On the show, you'll hear from leading Australian business owners as they share the lessons they've learned building their companies. You'll learn from their successes as well as some of the challenges they faced along the way. We also talk to experts from a range of fields who share specialised techniques you can use to improve your business. I'm your host, Savan Tuna, and I'm a director at Alexander Spencer, and I'm really passionate about helping Australian businesses succeed. We all scroll past endless business tips and success hacks, but what really separates the people who talk about building something from those who actually do it? Today, we're sitting down with Nathan Chan, founder and CEO of Foundr, the global platform that's helped millions of entrepreneurs turn ideas into action. In this episode, Nathan shares what sets doers apart from dreamers, how to create content that drives real growth, and where the future of entrepreneurial learning is headed. Let's dive in. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me on The Bottom Line.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here just down the road.
Yeah, it's always nice when you get guests that don't have to go too far to come to the studio. But I had one yesterday all the way from Gold Coast. So,
there you go.
So it's a nice change, definitely for that. But let's get into it. I'm actually slightly nervous. I said that to you earlier, and you said you have to be nervous. But interviewing another podcaster of your ilk can bring out the nerves. But I am so excited to interview you today. And I know our listeners can't wait to listen. But before we get into that, take us back to the beginning. What sparked the idea for Foundr, and what gap did you see in the market that no one else was willing to take?
Long time ago. I started the business about 13 years ago. I was working in IT support. My mum was a nurse. My dad was a teacher. No entrepreneurial family background. Was always a bit of a, hustler. I used to sell things secondhand. Like I used to always do stuff, but I didn't really know what an entrepreneur was for a long time, truthfully. And look, I really wanted to get a job in marketing. Like my career that I was working in, it just wasn't me. I went back to university and I tried to get a job in marketing. Couldn't get a job in marketing, and somebody said to me, this agency, I got feedback, and they said, "Oh, look, it'd be really cool," because I didn't have any experience. They said it'd be really cool to you create something and try and market it. So I started to go online and play around with like online marketing, affiliate marketing, and I saw this opportunity to create your own digital magazine, to purchase this software that helps you build your own digital magazine. I thought, well, that's really cool. That'd be really fun. So I was always interested around business because I started hearing stories, 13, 14 years ago of people starting businesses online, making a lot of money with no skills or experience whatsoever. And I thought, as a 25, 26-year-old guy, I was like, wow, that'd be really cool. I wonder how these people are doing it. So I just started interviewing people just for fun.
For the magazine?
For the magazine. Didn't know where it would go. Didn't know anything about magazines. Didn't know anything about publishing or apps or entrepreneurship or marketing. I was just like doing these interviews. And what I realized pretty quickly was these interviews were so awesome, I wanted to share them with the world. And I started to share them with the world through the magazine. And so March 5th of 2013, I launched the magazine and we made $5.50. So 2 people purchased a subscription of this magazine that no one had heard about. And it wasn't even called Foundr at the time. It was called Key to Success.
Okay.
And then 4 months later, I got an interview with Richard Branson and had him on the front cover of the magazine. And that's a whole nother story in of itself. And then fast forward another few months, I got sued for trademark infringement by one of the biggest business magazines in the States. And I changed the name to Foundr. And along the way, a few years later, people started asking, I started to grow the magazine. I launched a podcast off the back of it because it was, replicating and spinning the content. And then a few years later after that, people started saying, hey, how do I learn more from your guests? So I started getting our guests to teach courses. That ended up being a course platform, which ended up being Foundr Plus, which is our all-access membership. And then over time, I realized that 70% of people that were enrolling in our membership were actually looking to either start or grow an e-commerce brand. So then we really start to pivot and we really focus on e-commerce founders, helping them start and grow their brands. And then over time, built a really large media arm of the business and an education and coaching arm. And we do a lot of one-on-one coaching and mentoring and support. So we really have built this ecosystem and solution to help founders grow through education and learning and giving back.
Yeah, it's funny how it's evolved over time, and you've added these pillars as the market. So you saw the opportunity there. But was there anyone else sort of doing the digital magazine and then some of the other stuff? Were you sort of unique in that regard?
Yeah, look, back then there were a few people that were trying to create like magazines around business in the digital magazine space. And then there are obviously the big players like Forbes and Entrepreneur and Fast Company. And like I literally hacked the app store. So anytime somebody searched for Forbes, Fast Company, or Entrepreneur magazine or Fortune magazine, Founder would come up. And so I was, doing whatever it took to build that thing. And yeah, so there were some players, don't get me wrong, but consistency is a really powerful thing. It's a crazy thing what you can do if you just do it for a long time. Hormozy talks about this, like if people actually knew what was required and how many hours and how tough it would be, how far you can actually go. So I'm just 13 years still building.
Yeah. And it's evolved to being a global media and education powerhouse. It really has. But you touched a little bit on some of the things that happened that made it that. But what were the key turning points that shaped that evolution? Was there something where when we were going, and boom, and then we're there? Obviously, the Richard Branson at the start would have helped. But what was the key turning point
I
for it?
think there was a couple of key pieces, and I think it's something that you've discovered with your podcast as well. This ability to spin content and get leverage for it, and what you can do with one interview.
Mm.
So, one magazine interview could be a magazine cover. We only do 12 a year. Could be a podcast, could be some blog posts, could be some social media content. So, that was the first thing, really kind of looking to leverage the content. The second thing was this really maniacal focus on building a brand and really getting a good understanding of what builds a great brand. And for me, from my lessons, because I started another company and I believe that was a fantastic brand. I exited that company. It was an e-commerce business, time-marked water bottle. There's three key components to building a great brand. Obviously, first and foremost, great product or service. The promise, you actually fulfill it. It's actually exceptional. It's actually transformational. That's the first thing. The second thing is you need ambassadors. How can you have ambassadors, people that you can align with, thought leaders in your marketplace that build instant trust, that other people in your marketplace know, like, and trust? And then the third thing is great design, great look, and great feel. And those three key pillars is what I've always applied when it comes to brand building. So that was a step change. So over time, what happened was I realized, and by accident, that those magazine covers was what was allowing me to get really well-known guests in the marketplace and thought leaders like Ray Dalio, like Ariana Huffington, like, new big thought leaders like Emma Grede or Sharks off Shark Tank America, like Mark Cuban. And that really built the brand. That really built the trust, the reputation. And then I had this really strong emphasis on design. I remember at the time, like, I was tossing up, like, I was making 50 grand a year, like, when I started this magazine. To pay for the software, it was a 2 grand US cost on my credit card. And it was a special deal, got to buy now. And then, I had to find someone to design it. And I, found a few different people. Mate, I only wanted to spend $300 on designing this magazine. It's a joke.
Wow.
And then I found this other guy that did incredible work based out of India. His name's Karen Jane. And I never forget, like, his family had designed magazines and his uncle was like a famous art director in India and did like all the big magazines and stuff.
Oh, they do some cool stuff with colors, and you can just feel Bollywood and the colors and the
Yeah. Yeah, and I never forget. He said to me, I said, man, like, I got this other person that's going to do it for half the price. Why should I work with you? He said to me something that I'll never forget. He said, Nathan, I know I might be a more expensive option. However, I promise you, if you place a focus and emphasis on design It might be more expensive now, but it will pay its weight in gold when it comes to returns over time. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So I really placed a strong emphasis on design, and admittedly, it could get better now, and we've kind of lost our way a little bit, and we're doing a rebrand and we're rolling that out at the moment. But first and foremost, it was great design. Secondly, great product, and then third, great ambassadors, and getting these guests and aligning ourselves with those thought leaders. So that was one. That was another step change. So spinning the content, leveraging the content, focusing on building a great brand, and then another big one was Instagram. Instagram was an absolute game changer for Founder. So I used, somewhat of a Mr. Beast approach and an analogy. Do you know the story around like how Mr. Beast became Mr. Beast?
No. Tiny bit, but for the listeners that haven't heard,
Yeah, so
I'd love
Mr.
to.
Beast, like he's been building YouTube, like doing the YouTube thing for a long time now, over a decade now. And for the first 4 years, he didn't get any traction. And he started to get traction when he met these other people at a similar stage to him. And they just traded stories, maniacal focus, and obsession on the one percenters. And they all now, by no mistake, all have massive channels. And I did the same thing with Instagram.
Okay.
So I started Founder on the side, which is the best way to start a business, right? Started on the side, ideally get paid to train, work at a company where you can learn and get paid for it.
Yeah.
And it took me about, I think it was about 14 months before I could build Founder up to go full time on it. I went full time and I was looking for a channel to actually like try and grow this thing. And, I just had all this time and I had this magazine I had to produce and I had these, app store hacks and, I was producing the podcast and putting out blog posts and putting out content. But I needed a channel and I needed to find something that sticks. And a friend of mine said to me, hey, I'm doing this cool stuff with Instagram, but I don't think it'll work for you because it only works for e-commerce, not digital products. And he gave me some advice. I tried it and I saw that our sales spiked like for magazine subscriptions overnight in Google Analytics. I'm like, ooh. And then it just led me down this path where we had got like 10,000 followers in 2 weeks, 500,000 followers in a year, 1 million followers in 2 years.
Wow.
And part of that was networking and meeting a group of people all around the world. We were all helping each other. And so that was another big step change. So you see some of these I could keep going on, but those in the early days, those were some of the key step changes. Instagram in the first couple of years, finding it, being an early adopter. But Instagram was still around for quite a few years, but it paid its weight in gold. Focusing on the brand and the brand building elements I shared with you, and then just replicating and spinning the content. Those were some of the key things that really helped grow it.
I want to go back on Richard Branson and Ariana Huffington, not because I want to hear the detailed story, but you didn't have trust at that time, 4 months in, and you're building the brand. What were you don't have to tell the Richard Branson story, but just generally, if we want to go, like even at the bottom line here, we're trying, you're one of our bigger guests that we've had and really excited to have you on. And it's 4 years on and we're getting better and better guests. So like you said, I do agree with the staying true to and playing the long game and it'll build out. How did you get some of those talent early on that gave you without really having the trust? You must be really good at selling, but was there something there that you did that allowed some of the big names really early days when you weren't global to go, no, we're going to do that interview. We're going to give it a crack.
Started with the magazine. I didn't realize it at the time, but a magazine is such a powerful authority builder. You see a lot of people, they want to launch a book to build their authority. A magazine is even higher, right? And so, yeah, from perception, like from perception, right? If you're on the front cover of a magazine versus you've got your own book that's published by PR, like, you know what I mean? Like, I quickly discovered that using the magazine as a way and a tool, even though we might not have had that many readers, was a very, very, very powerful way to get through doors. And then the second thing was I worked out how to get into those doors, right? Richard Branson, to get him and track him down, I made a lot of phone calls, right? Ariana Huffington, that was a little bit of an easier one. I knew that she responded to email, so I emailed her. So it really comes down to really working out how to open those doors, but then having a really strong, mutually beneficial exchange in value. And through that, I was able to just find more and more guests. I think another good thing to think about to find great guests is this is a hack I always talk about is when somebody's launching a book, that's when they're going on their press tour. So, like Tim Ferriss, Ray Dalio, all of these guys, when they launch a book, that's when they're looking to go on shows. So, how do you find the gatekeeper? How do you know when they're going to? There's this little thing on Amazon called the Amazon Coming Soon list. So, basically, if you do a deal, publishing deal with like Penguin Random House as an example, they will submit your book 6 months, 12 months sometimes on the Amazon Coming Soon list. So then you know who will be looking for press and when, and then you reach out to those publishers or the PR firm because the PR firm is on a retainer and they need to fill. They're going to get a calendar and needs to be filled. Like I never forget Tim Ferriss, he was looking to do press run. He launched this TV show and, I had a relationship with the PR team, but they sent me the calendar and I could see his days were jam packed. He'd do 10 episodes back to back over a week and he'd just bang them out. And then that's it. Right. And I was one of the biggest shows. Right. So that's how these guys operate. Right. So when you're doing a press tour, when you're launching a book, you're looking for press and those slots have got to be filled. So if you're first in, first serve, first come, first serve, like that is the time. So it's much easier to have a mutually beneficial exchange in value if people are looking for press to promote something. They've got a campaign going on. So yeah, the Amazon Coming Soon list is a really, really great one.
I am definitely going to use that. We have been upping the ante in the guest list, and we've been really good. We've got a few PR companies that we work with that love the show and promote their guests to come on, and it's been really great. We stumbled across one, and she's been a massive advocate, and you kind of just need these success stories. But that's one I haven't heard before, so thank you for the tip. And I guess that can be applied to business owners that are looking for ambassadors or promoters or collaborations potentially. So it's a good one. Community engagement's a big thing for you in terms of building the community. And a lot of it's a bit of, I want to call it a full-on buzzword, but with community and building and communities become a bit of a thing that even accounting firms, legal firms, and e-commerce brands do. How do you unlock that for Foundr, and how did you unlock that? Because I feel like you did that really early on, of people probably proud to be part of the Foundr community. Is there a secret to that?
I think it just goes back to if you really look at business, which I know you're very familiar with, around relationships, right? All business is building relationships at scale. So when it comes to, Foundr and building a community, I'm always thinking, how can we build relationships at scale? So the way that you can build relationships is through content. Content builds influence, but then you have to have a place for your tribe to gather and speak and chat. And, we won't get into the mechanisms. You can have a Facebook group, you can have a school group, you can have a Discord. Like it doesn't matter where, like what it is, whether it's school or whatever these tools are. Fundamentally, for me, it's like, how can you make people feel heard and seen? And really, that's what it comes down to. So when it comes to, if you want to build a community, one, you need a place for people to gather and have conversation, whether that's in person or offline. Yeah. And then secondly, you need to put out content to build influence and, consume like whatever it is that your brand or business is about. And when I say content, that doesn't mean it has to be a how-to video or information. You can take people on a journey, right? Like more than ever, you see some of the best e-commerce brands. It's like, this is day one of me starting to build this e-commerce brand. Follow along on the journey. You know what I mean? Like more than ever. And then you start to build a community where people are championing and cheering you on. And then you can say, hey guys, get on the first, and there's only, you're on the founding list, right? And then like we're going to put you in like a part of a Facebook group, and you can share and you can be part of the next, like, you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Taking people on a journey, putting out content, but it doesn't have to be a a podcast or a how to, but it's kind of making people feel heard and seen, taking them on a journey.
Getting
And then, yeah,
emotionally attached as well. I feel like there's two stories I can think of as you say that is there was a lady that was going to start a cafe and she put out the story of how they renovated this cafe. It took 6 months, 3 months, whatever it was. And she just built this awesome community of people watching her build this cafe. And she had no idea. I mean, obviously, her numbers would have grown in terms of her followers and stuff. When she opened, she could not believe the community support that she'd created, like thousands of people lining up to get croissants or whatever it was. And it was because they were invested in her journey. And she had some really tough times. I remember just seeing snippets of it where, things came in the wrong sizes, they had to reorder, and people were like, oh my God. And there would have been this thing. And I feel like the show The Block, I've rewatched that, not rewatched, started watching it again, watched it a few years back. And you get this invested in the journey of them building this house. It's not even about renovations and, my daughter watches it and she won't have a clue about houses and renovations and design, but she gets invested. So I really like that, bringing people in that journey really resonates. And when you said it, it's not something that we think of as marketers or building our brand, but when you said it, it kind of makes sense. And it's not, on the menu. You've got to sort of think a bit laterally to get that.
yeah. Well, I think it starts with the content and using content as a medium to build relationships.
Yeah, okay.
Right. And then taking people on a journey and then people following along and then getting those people together in a way that people have conversations, right? Two-way conversations, and it can be online or offline, like the cafe as an example, right? So that's how you build community, making people feel heard and seen and building relationships. That's what it's all about. It's what Alexander Spencer, like with clients, relationships, right? It's the same thing. But it starts with that taking people on a journey and using content as that vehicle. And it doesn't have to be day one of building the business. It could be, it starts with, or it could be a vlog. It could be absolutely anything.
It can be at any time. You don't have to. You never miss the boat, right? You could be a 50-year-old business and you start it. I want to talk about leadership because I listened to your podcast and you have amazing leadership takeaways that you share, and you can't grow to the size that you've grown so rapidly and scaled what you've done without one having a big team and having a team that you've led. I'd love to know what are some of the leadership or operational mistakes that taught you the most along the way to start off with. I just want to see what went wrong and what happened in your learnings along the journey, just around that leadership piece.
I think context is really important. So I've only ever had two professional jobs. My first one was at an accounting firm.
Oh, was it really?
Yep.
I wish I hired you back then. But anyway.
It was an accounting firm and I was an IT consultant. And, their core business was accounting, and then they had a little IT shop. So they had a little IT shop where they'd sell managed services. And I was an IT consultant, setting up QuickBooks and MyOb. And can you believe it? Yeah. So
I would never have guessed that.
Yeah. And it was a small shop. It was a small firm, like sub 20 people or something, right? It was in the city. I did that job for about 2 years or a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I got that job through an internship for my first degree. The RMIT, a long story short, the careers counsellor, it was the first interview. They offered me the job and I said, I'm not sure about this place. And the careers counsellor said, I've got so many people that are struggling to get an internship. You got to take it. Worst decision ever.
What year was it?
It was 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the worst decision ever. And then my second job was leaving that company, working at an incredible company, which was Intrepid Travel, learning about culture, learning about great workplace, great mission, just an amazing product, and just how to build a business, really. But at the very bottom, right? Like just IT support still.
Yeah.
And then I started Foundr. So, like, I look at my team and what I expose them to. Like, I've got someone I caught up with, a team member. I caught up with him for dinner this week, and he was started as a videographer for me at, I think he was 19, and now he's 20. Oh no, he must have been 23. He started with me as a videographer at 23. Now he's close to 30. He left earlier this year, and he's building his dad's e-commerce brand. He's learned so much about leadership, everything, right?
Yeah.
Like he's a superstar performer. But the reason I tell these stories is I think in corporate and professional working environments, you learn a lot about hiring, firing, managing people, holding people to account, strategy, like all these fundamentals that I had to learn the hard way because I never saw it. I was never exposed to it. So I paid for that massively. So some of these ones, okay, like hiring. Oh my God. The first person that I hired, dude, he was great. But man, I met him at an event and he seemed like a cool kid that had some hustle. And then I had
You
a
gotta go
coffee.
for it.
Yeah, I had a coffee and he was my first hire. Like, and he was great. Like, he was great. But I learned a lot about hiring. I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about holding people to account. You know, I'm your typical nice guy, right? I want to be liked. I don't want to be hard. I don't want to be tough. I have this weird dynamic where, like, you know, with my friends, if I don't like something, I'll tell you. But like in business, it really makes me feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm very similar like that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I've learned to try my best to
Yeah,
keep going. This is cool.
So like, so I've really struggled along the way holding people to account. I've really learned, you know, like a big part of leadership is knowing your skills and strengths, and then really finding people that complement you, really finding people that can work with your style as
Yeah.
well, right? Like it's not just strengths and skills, it's personality match, it's all of it. So oh, look, from a leadership perspective, I've learned a lot about people, right? Businesses are built by people. And if you want to build a business to a certain size beyond just yourself, you have to be good at leading people, setting a vision, taking people on a journey. Like you can't just tell someone to go and do something, man.
No, no.
Like that's not empowering, right? Like, so there is so much there to unpack, but I'd say some of the biggest lessons have been people management, hiring, finding the right people, attracting the right people. And even, you know, it's funny. People always talk about like, oh, you know, you got to hire A players. I've had A players that have come into Founder, struggled, gone somewhere else and absolutely killed it. You have to sometimes look yourself in the mirror and go, hey, did you set that person up for success?
Yeah.
Like it's easy to go, hey, that person wasn't strong, therefore that was their thing. But it's so much like setting somebody up for success, actually communicating and showing them what success looks like. Like that was the thing. Like you just assume as an owner, people like, you know, like there's so much there, man. Like it's yeah, there's been a lot of mistakes. But I think some of the biggest have been like some bad senior exec hires.
Has your definition of success changed over the journey?
Yeah, it has. It has. So I experienced really deep, deep burnout after COVID. So the online education space
Oh, that would have taken a
really,
hit.
no, it was
I
the
didn't.
exact
Oh, the online
opposite.
education, no.
Yeah,
It wasn't phase. Yeah,
yeah,
keep going.
yeah. So exact opposite. So maybe that March we took a bit of a hit, but that
Yeah,
April, yeah, it just exploded. Like I had people that I used to work with coming to me, man, like in corporate saying, hey man, like I know you do this like thing with Founder, like can you help me start a business? I'm like, man, why now? Like why are you hitting me up now? And he's like, well, I got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Right. So, oh my God, you know, like the business just exploded. And like most people, we thought it would last forever. But that's besides the point. I really, 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 really worked just myself into the ground. And then about a year later, I remember it was like, I think mid 2021, I started waking up in the middle of the night with my heart beating really fast. And I was like, that's not right. And then I remember like even saying to one of my mentors, like, man, I don't feel right. I just don't feel right. And like I had like a strategy day with like my whole team. It was like 25 people there, and I didn't want to be there. It was just like such a bizarre feeling, like this person that, you know, lived and breathed Founder and this business and put my whole life and soul. And it's the only thing I've ever done like professionally or like like it's my biggest achievement. Like if you looked at my form as a, I love the races. I'd had no form to build Foundr. I literally didn't.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I just like I went into really deep burnout, and what I realized is like you can have all the money, all the influence, all the success, all of these external things, but if you don't have and internal feeling good about yourself type stuff that you've done all these things, but if you don't have your mental health, it is all worthless. And so I had to do a big reset, man. Like, I started speaking to somebody and I realized, you go to the gym and you lift weights to train your muscles. Speaking to someone is actually really healthy to train your mind. It's the same thing. And, I started really getting back into my health and fitness, walking 10,000 steps, training. I'm a personal trainer, sauna, acupuncture, you name it. I did so much, dude. Float tanks,
Oh, yeah, float
meditation,
tanks. Yeah.
daily meditation. I don't do it as much, but journaling, reflecting, and it took me a while. It took me a while to like really recover. And it took me a while to even work out that I was burnt out. But I just ran myself into the ground, dude. And, now I've got some pretty strict habits around kind of making sure my cup is fully filled and what success means, right? Like, it's not like, I know Foundr will be $100 million a year business. It's not yet, but I'm happy if it takes me. And I'm not going to kill myself, like all these different things. And I just stopped caring, right? I just stopped caring. I think a lot of founders, they have a chip on their shoulder, feel like you have something to prove. And I had that, dude. No doubt about it. I had that. And I don't have it as much. I still have a little bit, but not as much. And so, yeah, success has definitely changed for me over the journey. Like I'm recently engaged. I want to have a family, like it's just a deeper sense of purpose now.
Yeah. But it's quite a common theme. I do, especially with successful people that have, gotten to a certain level and maybe now they're not chasing profit or revenue growth, but they're working as extreme. And all of a sudden, either their friend falls really ill or they ever pass someone close to them passes away. There's this sort of significant moment in their lives that changes it. It happened to a business partner of mine. He would have been in his probably mid-50s at the time, and his best friend got quadriplegic. And he's like, well, there's more to life than, grinding out, not tax returns wasn't his role, but, coming to the office. And he really changed after that. It's significant to just reflect back and just think about, why we do it. And yeah, so that story really resonates to some of the stuff that I've seen. So it's nice. But I want to change the theme a little bit in terms of just for young entrepreneurs. So you've worked with, so many of them. What advice would you have to someone that have not had the experience, they may have worked at a company, they've got a passion for a side hustle or a business that they want to grow? What advice would you give them for that person to be successful?
When I met Tony Robbins, I've interviewed him a couple of times. And for people that are not familiar with Tony Robbins, love him or hate him, he's an impressive person. Like he runs, I think, like 21 companies, many are multi-billion dollar companies or billion-dollar companies, like impressive guy. And he's worked with like presidents and like tennis players like Andre Agassi. Like he was bombed out and he worked with Tony Robbins to rework his mindset. And like, I know it's this kind of spiritual thing, but like get him hungry again, right? Get him hungry again. And I said to him, what does it take to create deep change? Because you and I both know that most people don't want it bad enough. Like if you actually saw the movie, like for anyone's listening and actually like saw the movie, somebody's movie from start to finish, you'd like the end outcome, but you like the amount of stress, pressure, anxiety, all these different things that you have to push through, you probably wouldn't want to deal with that. And a lot of people, honestly, they're just comfortable, right? And I think when I spoke to Tony Robbins, like what does it take to create deep change, deep desire, deep hunger to start a business? And he said, people aren't going to like this, but it's pain. You have to experience like some form of pain. And it doesn't mean it has to be physical pain. So I'll talk through my pain. Like, how did I start Foundr? What caused this guy, happy-go-lucky, travel around the world, spend every dollar I had on traveling or partying, like want to just start this thing and build it. And it come from pain, and it come from this place of I had this incredible hunger to find work that I was passionate about. And I couldn't think of anything worse being stuck in my current situation, doing the work I was doing and doing that for the rest of my life. That scared the absolute crap out of me. And that's what fueled that hunger, that desire, that relentlessness that I was going to find a way, I would not be beaten, and I would work this out. So, my advice to anyone listening is you have to find a way to make it like it has to be an obsession. It unfortunately has to be an obsession. You have to find a way to build this deep, innate desire to build and keep going. And if you have to find a way to want it bad enough to create that deep change in your life and your situation. And if you don't, it's probably unfortunately not going to work. If you are comfortable, but it sounds nice, then it's probably not going to work. And that's probably not the answer that people want to hear, but that's where it starts, right? That's where it starts with the core, right? I never forget somebody said to me once, Nathan, do you think Foundr can be $100 million a year business? And I said, yeah. And he's like, well, that's 50% of the battle won, right? So half the work is done if you actually believe it. Half the work is done if you actually want it. And like mindset isn't sexy, but it is so powerful, and it's such a big part of this game. And then the second big thing for anyone that wants to, start a business, if you truly have that desire, if you truly are frustrated, if you truly have that pain and frustration, you're sick and tired of your current situation, you want to make a change, the greatest hack in life is to learn from somebody that's already done it, right? Yeah. That's why Foundr exists, right? We go out, we find the best of the best that have actually done it. You want to learn Facebook ads if you've got an e-commerce brand, learn from one of our instructors, Nick Shack. He spent hundreds of millions of dollars profitably. He runs his own brand. It's gone from zero to, like last I saw, 65, 70 million US in the past 2 years per year, right? If you want to know how to start an e-commerce brand, learn from Greta, right? She's built 4 multi-million dollar, I lost count, multi-million dollar e-commerce brands. Find somebody, it doesn't have to be through us, whatever industry, whatever niche, whatever market. Find somebody that's already done it and learn from them, whether you work for them, whether you pay them, right? In some way, shape, or form, whether you do their program, whether you do coaching with them, whether you do one-on-one consulting, whatever it is, don't be afraid to just find that person and do whatever it takes to learn from them. And if that takes some money, well, what do they say? It takes money to make money. Yeah. Right? If you want to start a business, we've got the accountants here. It's an educational expense.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so those are the two pieces. Like, I could keep going, right? But those are two things that stick out to me.
And you mentioned mentors and mentorship. That's one of my tips that I give to a lot of founders that are looking for scale and growth and support. And you just got to be surrounded by good people, but have one or two really good mentors. Who are the mentors that you sort of seeked out and looked up to and helped you shape who you are today?
Oh, look, I've had many over the years. One of my first mentors, Jeremy Same, he co-founded deals.com.au, and then eventually that spun into Luxury Escapes. So he was somebody that I met early on in the journey. And they're not always right either. Like Jeremy said to me, man, if I were you, I'd make this magazine free and just sell advertising. Now, he was right because we eventually made it free, but like I wouldn't have survived if I just tried to sell ads. I strategically sold it as a subscription, sold the content. But, Jeremy Same was an early one. Matthew Michaelitz, a guy I interviewed from Adelaide, sold his business for $20 million. And he said, Nathan, I just want to shake your hand. I'm from Adelaide. Next time I see you, let's catch up for coffee, right? Then he used to mentor me, right? Steve McLeod, right? He helped me really scale Foundr. He built a very large training and fire and safety training organization, right? So in the education space. Mitch Harper, he started Big Commerce. That was a multi-billion-dollar exit on the NASDAQ, right? Like Like he was the one that pushed me and helped me build Founder Plus and this membership and a subscription play. Like, so yeah, so many mentors along the way.
And it's actually being open to listening. So I think people really go and seek some mentors and speak and, source these people to surround themselves with. But they have to be also very open to listening and being open to changing their habits or their ways and actually getting that feedback. Because not everyone gets feedback and actions it. So I think you've got to be open to it as well. It's just not seeking it. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, right? Like a lot of this stuff as well is taking action, man. It's one thing to have the desire and hunger. It's another thing to, find people that already done it, but you have to have the courage to move forward. You have to have the courage to do these uncomfortable things. And I never forget, actually, when I left Founder, this girl, Lucy, who she helped me with the Richard Branson interview. She wrote the article and helped me work on the questions and stuff. I got her to write me a LinkedIn recommendation, and she said something that I'll never forget. She said something around how fearless I was. And I never really saw myself as someone being fearless. But I think for whatever reason, when it's come to building Founder, like I am afraid, don't get me wrong, but like there's this level of fear that you just got to push through.
You talked about content a lot in terms of scaling, growing, building community and relationship. I feel like it's gotten not so much saturated. This content is not easy, but it's so much more easy to create content, and there's an abundance of content. How do we differentiate ourselves in that noise? Is there a trick or a skill there that can come into play?
Yeah, so I think I like this idea of when it comes to content, you've got to like my philosophy is this. I'll start to map it out for you. So when you're looking at content, you want to look at what's working, right? That's first and foremost, right? So how do you work out what's working? You look at the who's who in the zoo. Who are the top 10, 20 thought leaders in your space? What content are they putting out? How are they packaging it? What channel am I going to focus on? Focus on just one channel, ideally one channel, and then look at their content and look for what we call the outliers, the unicorn posts that like obviously are working, right? Or like posts or videos or content, audio. Like what you'll see, like the views, it's all there. You can see it oftentimes. And then you want to draw inspiration from what's working out there, and then you want to put your own spin on it. I think that's what a lot of this is, right? So there's this guy called Caleb. He used to do work for Gary Vee. And he talks about this concept of like, you keep putting out 80% of what you know works and then like 20% of like experimental stuff. But you start with the 80, right? And knowing what works. And you start to build like a book of content. So that's one piece of the puzzle, right? Build a plan around what is working out there in the marketplace and then start to replicate it, draw inspiration from it. Then the second thing is this concept and idea of build, measure, learn. It's not enough to just have a plan. Your content will go to new levels. You launch it, you're looking at the numbers, having a data and an analytical approach and measuring it, and then learning and then tweaking it and trying to drive it. And if you just focus on what's working out there in the marketplace, then building and measuring and learning, you'll be well on your way than most people. Because a lot of people, they just start putting out content for the sake of putting out content. They set and forget, don't really care, say it doesn't work after 3 months. You know what I mean? And it's just this maniacal focus of like build, measure, learn, build, measure, learn, build, measure, learn. And really kind of making each piece of content better, even if it's by 1%. Just like how Stephen Bartlett, he talks about the 1%, right? The 1% method, that all they're trying to do is make 1% better every single podcast. And then I think as well, standing out and being different, it comes down to vulnerability. And, if you're talking about content for you and your personal brand, and all that kind of stuff. People connect with people. People connect with stories. Stories is where it's at, So the more you can be vulnerable, the more you can tell stories. I think that is incredibly powerful. But yeah, that's how you stand out. You start with a base of what's working, and then you just start to chip away and build, measure, learn.
Nathan, thank you so much for joining me on the bottom line. I was a bit nervous, as I said it earlier in the piece, but you've made me really feel really comfortable What an amazing story for Foundr. You're an amazing guy that shares great content. We learned so much from you. I listened to a lot more of your episodes on the podcast leading up to this interview, and I've learned so much. And you relayed some of the stories today for us. So I just want to say thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Absolute pleasure. Happy to come back anytime. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. This is The Bottom Line, a show designed to help Australian businesses succeed. This podcast was produced by accountancy firm Alexander Spencer. At Alexander Spencer, we've been helping business owners realise their goals since 1952. And we play a pivotal role in developing, implementing, and supervising the business goals and strategies of our clients. To find out how we can help your business succeed, head to our website, alexanderspencer.com.au. To make sure you don't miss an episode of The Bottom Line, be sure to subscribe to or follow the show in your podcast app. And while you're there, leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others find the show. I'm Savan Tuna, and we'll be back next episode with more tips to help you transform your business. And that's The Bottom Line.